Oh, yeah. Hey, good morning. Good morning. Oh, yeah. So here we are. The exciting day has arrived where we can order all of our Apple related stuff that we've been wanting to order forever. Good morning to everybody. Happy Friday, Friday the 30th. What is this? This is the last day of April, isn't it? I, ugh. It can't be May yet. That's like the year is almost half over, and what? It's crazy. It's crazy. Good morning, people. Welcome to the Painfully Honest Tech Friday morning coffee, in which I have yet another Starbucks latte. I have to admit, part of the reason that I go to Starbucks, like I go through the drive-through, so I don't go to the Starbucks, right? I go through the drive-through, and one of the young ladies who works at the Starbucks, like knows who I am by my voice and what I order, and that little bit of human connection is what gets me through my day, people. Just the fact that somebody else in the real live human world knows who I am, and she's cute and everything. Anyway, so as far as I could tell, with all the safety precautions of the masks and everything, and then just the drive-through window. Anyway, got my coffee, got the daughter to school, got a package of goodies from Zounds, a music gear retailer. So I've got all kinds of fun things waiting for me today. I am inexplicably considering going out and getting a purple iPhone 12. I uh, Tell me why. Tell me why. I'm not a big Dunkin' Donuts fan. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's from Boston and I'm a Yankees fan, but I'm not a Dunkin' Donuts fan. Not a big fan of like regular American drip coffee. I am not really a coffee snob per se. I will drink just about any any coffee swill that's available, but if I had my choice, I'd have something that had a bolder taste. The French roast or an espresso roast is my favorite style of coffee. So therefore the latte. Latte is like 400 calories though. Now, my yard guy is here. He's weed whacking now. So if you hear any weed whacking in the background, that is my yard guy. Yes, I have a yard guy. That does not mean I'm a rich person. It just means that I, I'm lazy enough to not want to mow my own lawn. Okay, that's how lazy I am. Uh, Jimmy, good morning. How's things in the UK? What part of the UK are you in? Um, in memory of Steve Jobs, yeah, I guess so. I guess so. May is the best month. I don't know. May is when it starts to suck in Iowa. Like, well, I guess May and June are okay because it starts to get warm, but it doesn't get super humid. Like July and August are when it gets really humid, and and then and then these little bugs come out, midges, the midges. They're like gnats but bigger, and they never actually came out. I lived in Iowa for a few years before we had a big flood in 2008, and there were never any midges. But after 2008, every year for like 2 months, they come out and they get in your mouth and they fly in your eyes, and it's awful. It's awful. So, yeah, May is okay. Iowa winters suck, and Iowa summers suck. Uh, why do I live here? Why have I lived here? I mean, every place that I've lived, the weather has sucked. West Virginia weather, not in all places. Not in all places. If you lived like in between mountains or whatever, it was usually pretty cool in the summertime. Or if you lived at a higher elevation, it was pretty cool. But summer in Morgantown, where I grew up, was very humid and nasty. And then the winters were very cold. New York City, hot, smelly, stinky ass, sweaty, humid, awful winters. Like all of New York City smells like garbage in August. That's why everybody goes on vacation in August. And then the winters were terrible too, because not only was there like the snow, but because you like if you worked in Manhattan, because you were on a island, the wind would just like whip through like the east west part of the cities, and just oh man, going east west was terrible. I need to go someplace in my old age where the weather is not horrible. Yeah, I'll take suggestions. Well, Ottawa winter weather, I would imagine. I mean, if you're gonna live in Canada, if you're gonna live in Canada, I mean, it's hard not to have the terrible winters, right? But I think you get better summers than we do. Well, Texas sucks like 24/7, doesn't it? Like in terms of weather. I guess there are some places that are probably more temperate, but I just always think of Texas as like humid and nasty. Well, not humid. Maybe it's a dry heat, but just I remember a friend of mine moved to Austin, and she said that there were like bushes that would attack you and all kinds of prickly things, and just I'm like, Austin is a place that I've always wanted to visit, and I think I might like to live, but maybe in the 90s or the 80s I would have wanted to live in Austin, or the 70s. But yeah, I've heard that Houston and the Dallas Fort Worth area can be really really nasty. Um, yeah. I've been to the UK a couple of different times, and I have always loved the weather there. Um, and I know everybody just thinks, "Oh, it's just humid and or just, wet and blah 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 and all that kind of stuff." Um, but I've just always liked it. I mean, I've never had the pleasure of traveling outside of the London area, but the times that I've been in London, I've really loved it. And I've been all over Europe as well, and Europe is just generally not as terrible as as the United States when it comes to weather. Yeah, I always thought that I would get to Austin, Texas for South by Southwest because my band was always like, like, oh, we're going this year, and then something would happen and we wouldn't go. So I always thought that I would get to Austin that way, but it didn't happen. So now I'm gonna have to figure it out. Like I also have a lot of friends that live in Nashville, and a lot of musicians live in Nashville. And Nashville, like, while it's still the country music capital of the world, um, Nashville is cheap, or at least it was cheap before. And there's still a lot of younger musicians that are not country artists who move to Nashville and have studios and that kind of thing. And I'm like, hey, yeah, I've been to Nashville. It's not that bad. But I don't think my wife would ever move to Nashville. Uh, all of my family, my wife's family, my mother and my brother and extended family all still live in West Virginia, and maybe someday I'll go back there. The West Virginia never leaves you. It sticks around like I don't know, some incurable disease like herpes. No, I love West Virginia, um but but yeah, the rest of my wife's family, they live in California. California sounds fun, except everybody's leaving California now. Maybe that'll make the rents cheaper because Lord knows I can't afford to live in California right now. Ireland is the country of my genetic origin. So that's definitely on my list of places that I want to go. Um and have for a long long time. Wanted to go on our honeymoon to Ireland, couldn't afford to do it. See, there's my lawn guy. I don't know if you can hear him. But wanted to go to Ireland for the honeymoon, couldn't afford it, went to Maine instead. Uh, but next year is like the 30th anniversary of when my wife and I met, so maybe we'll do something special. I don't know. Um, yeah, there he is. There he is. He's going by the window. Sorry. So anyway, uh, I don't remember how I started talking about the weather. but yeah. So Tech Odyssey says that Austin's hot, but the humidity isn't there. Yeah, I mean, but I know it gets like 100 and something degrees, right? So, which I it gets 100 and something degrees here too. So I don't know what I would be complaining about there. Uh, Steven asks, Jason, are you getting the air tags? And my answer, Steven, is no. I honestly, I don't have a use for the air tags because I work at home and I don't have things. I I don't. Every once in a while, I misplace my keys, but I don't need a $30 Mentos and a $65 keychain to help me find my keys. They're somewhere. I can find them. Uh, so so yeah, I don't want to. I'm not gonna get them. I'm not gonna get them. But then again, I say that, and maybe I will. Tech Free Needs is here. Good morning to you. Oh, Drone Lord got to go to Ireland on his honeymoon. That's cool, man. So interesting story. I don't know if you guys know this. I was adopted. Now, my adoptive family also Irish on my dad's side and Swiss French on my mother's side, as well as I don't know, it's something else. I don't know, Dutch, Danish, something like that. So I always was like, well, my Irish. But then I met my birth mother and her family, and their last name is Dunham, and they're all like 100% Irish. So then, all right. Is there a mod in the house? Oh, that's on Twitter, or that's on Twitch. Okay. Twitch is trolling me. Yeah, but so I found out, yeah, but I want to find out like what is the origin place of the majority of my family and all that, and do that whole thing. And my wife's family is German, Italian, Irish. Her last Murphy was her maiden name. So yeah, we want to go. We want to go. Tech Odyssey you got to stop in Iraq on your way to or you got to stop in Ireland on your way to Iraq. I got my countries mixed up. That's a big mix up. The beer, I bet the beer was good. I mean, that's the one thing that I will be bummed out about is the fact that I can't enjoy the local beverages. I want to become famous too. Somebody click on that link. Retethered Tech. The sad part is that Tile has been around forever and no one cared. Now Apple jumps in and everybody's talking about it. The power of Apple. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we can say this about Apple in many arenas, right? Apple is very, very good at marketing. They're just very good at marketing. They do it as better than probably anybody in the tech space. And so, yeah, it's Tile doesn't have Apple's budget. Tile doesn't have Apple's, thing. They they don't have Apple's like brand cachet. I mean, I think I've talked about on various live streams over the years, primal branding, which part of primal branding is building a whole sort of, I guess, mythology around your brand and making people fanatic about it and having origin story and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And just really making, your brand a culture as opposed to just a brand. And Apple has done that as successful as any company that I can think of. Maybe, I mean, even something like Coca-Cola or, one of the huge brands out there, like Nike probably has a similar kind of following, but Apple has created, well, I mean, there's a reason they call people who are deep into the Apple sheep. So yeah, they're just very good at it. And so I think part of the reason that that's part of the reason that people are not talking about Tile and they are talking about AirTags, but AirTags are also like, they integrate with your devices, so it becomes like an extension of your Apple-ness, right? Um, so I guess AirTags are, as Apple does so often, they take an idea that is a good idea, and then they figure out, like, how can we make it better, whether it's, like, dovetailing it into the rest of our thing, or, you know, any of those kinds of things. So, I'm not surprised that people are talking about AirTags. For one thing, I mean, from the tech perspective, in terms of people who cover technology, um, there's not that much else going on to talk about. Uh, so yeah, there's really not much else going on. So that's why you saw like 1,000 AirTag videos over the past week or so, because nobody has anything else to talk about. If I were a smart YouTuber, I would have just gotten the AirTags and I would have made AirTag videos. And if I'm a smart YouTuber, I would order like as many of the Apple devices that are being released as I could order, and I would cover them, and I would just do the thing. But I don't know. I am tempted somewhat by the iPad, because, I mean, if for no other reason than my iPad is a 2018 iPad, and while there's nothing wrong with it at all, and as I've said before, there's nothing that really, I don't think I've ever really done anything with it that would like make it make it even sweat. um, I just don't. I I'm intrigued by the M1 chip in the iPad, if only to see if there is any kind of significant difference, and then that develops into something that might be more worthwhile. Um, but and I want to see the mini LED 12.9-inch display. But to get like 512 gigabytes is $1,400. $1,400 for 512 gigabytes. And that gave me pause for sure. Knowing that I'm going to want to buy whatever Macs they come out with next. So I'm just kind of like, and then, but I can't think like that. I need to stop thinking about stuff like this in terms of like, well, is it for me? Am I going to use it? Right. Because the truth of the matter is, like, I'm supposed to be talking about this stuff because the people who watch my videos and are, subscribed to my channel, this is the thing that they would want to see. I think. I never know what people want to see. I look at like my most watched videos over the past like 3 months, and 5 or 6 out of 10 of my most watched videos are audio related. Some of them are, HomePod or whatever, but I can't tell. Is this an audio channel? Is this a smartphone channel? Is this an Apple channel? I just never know. I don't know. So the 1 terabyte version has been, I assume you mean slipping, like in terms of delivery dates. Yeah, I just honestly, from a price to performance, price to, like, value, um I just can't. I don't know. I mean, I've got a MacBook over there. A little dirty secret. Right now, I'm like fully on Windows. So I'm not even using Macs right now, and kind of enjoying it. Mostly because, like, my MacBook Pro, there's nothing wrong with it, but I've got this super powerful PC, and it's just, when you can put all the stuff that you need inside of your PC, and you don't have to like plug a bunch of things into a thing and then plug that thing into your stuff, then I mean, I've got 4 terabytes of storage in there, 64 gigabytes of RAM, and like, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, Retethered Tech is right. There is nothing on iPad OS that would make the iPad Pro sweat. I mean, if you can do video stuff with iPad OS, like in LumaFusion, and it just does it like there's no no worries at all, then yeah, you're right. You're right. And I don't even know, like, I don't even know if you got Final Cut on there. Final Cut can be very intensive, but um, it's a Mac native program. So, would it make, because basically at this point, the iPad is a Mac Mini, a MacBook Pro, a MacBook Air, an iMac 24-inch. They're all the same thing. They're all the same thing. I mean, there's very, very little to differentiate one model from the next. Not just one model of each device, but one model. I mean, now Apple sells 4 of the same thing in slightly different form factors. So, which one do you buy? Do you buy any of them and wait for the other ones? It's very confusing. It's very confusing. Um, Nemesis asks, how much was cost of living in New York when you were there? It wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap. But if you were, when we first moved to New York in 1993, I think we paid $900 something a month in rent for 2 small rooms, a closet-sized kitchen, and a closet-sized bathroom. And then we moved down to the East Village onto Avenue B, and we paid $1,200 a month for the full top floor of a building. It was a 5-story building, 5 apartments, and it was kind of like a railroad style. You have a living room, then you have a kitchen dining room in the middle, of the bedrooms in the back, and the bathroom is in where the bedroom is. That was $1,200. Then we moved over to Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and this was before Williamsburg was what it is now. And we paid $850 for the top floor of a 2-story building that had like a storefront in the bottom and then a 2-bedroom apartment up top. And we actually had the opportunity to buy that building when we'd been there for a few years. Our landlord offered to sell it to us and the woman who lived downstairs who had converted the storefront. He offered to sell us this building for $250,000, $250,000, right? And I was like 25 or 26, and that seemed like an awful lot of money. But thinking about New York real estate even then, that's nothing. He had bought it at like a tax auction and rehabilitated it. He was a super of a bunch of buildings in the area, so this was his first foray into real estate. He sold it 10 or so years later, maybe 15 years later, and I know that he got like double-digit $1 million for that building, just for them to tear it down so they could build like condos. And to this day, I can't keep myself from thinking, like, what if we had just like even explored getting that money? But yeah, it's much more expensive now. When we lived there, yeah, it wasn't cheap. The beers were like $5 to $8. Pack of cigarettes, pack of cigarettes was $5 or $6, and then they put an extra tax on it, and the pack of cigarettes went up to like $10. But I quit smoking by then. So it wasn't cheap, but it's a lot worse now from everything that I can tell. Yeah, although I will say, and now this is maybe a silver lining to the very dark cloud of the pandemic, both in California and in New York. I think that going through crises in a large major metropolitan area like New York City makes it really difficult to handle. Like I lived there during 9/11, and that had a really negative impact on my mental health and well-being. I can say that for sure. Like, people who lived in New York, I mean, and you could probably say this about people all over the United States, but especially in the places where these things happened, I think that there were probably 8 million people suffering from PTSD in New York City that went largely untreated because it was a highly impactful event in my life and in the lives of just about anybody who was in an area where something like that happened. Yeah. So but yeah, I lived there for 11 years. We only moved because we wanted to be able to buy a house or an apartment or something, and there wasn't really any way. My wife works in nonprofit. I was a freelance editor slash musician. We just weren't going to have the kind of money to have something to buy something that we would actually want to live in. So that's ultimately why we left 6 months after my daughter was born. So, but yeah, I mean, living in New York City through your 20s. So I got there when I was 22, I think, and lived there through my 33rd year. And yeah, living that part of your life in New York City is pretty incredible. But once you get down to the nitty gritty of raising a family and stuff like that, if you have lived someplace else, had different experiences, know that there's other ways of living besides that, and that there are attractive things about those kinds of things. It was just difficult, and going through something as traumatic as 9/11 just a couple of years before was probably a determining factor as well. So yeah, that's probably a longer explanation than what you were asking for, but New York City does sell the air rights above the building. That's right. Yeah, but I mean, it's a 10-mile long little spit of land. So Yates says this is his last day on T-Mobile home internet. So I didn't know T-Mobile had internet. So I guess that shows me. Smoking in Canada is $18 a pack. Well, I mean, those are Canadian dollars. I can't stop myself from making that joke. I apologize. But that's what, like $10 or $12 American. It's not cheap. I mean, here's the thing about smoking. Smoking is a poor person tax. Because the majority of people who smoke, at least in the United States, and at least in my experience, the majority of people who smoke are lower income people, and I don't get it. I smoked for 15 years, I think. I started when I was 14. I quit when I was 30. So around 15 years. So yeah, smoking is yet another way of separating people from their hard-earned dollars and putting them in the pockets of people who already have some. But I mean, I guess that's the way the ball bounces. That's the way the egg roll rolls, or whatever. Did I ever hear the fan in the MacBook Pro? No, I didn't. I think I verified that I could get it to turn on. I remember kind of like, well, when doing video editing and stuff like that, I remember putting my ear up to the back of it so that I could tell that it was actually moving air, but I couldn't hear the fan at all, ever. Which, in contrast to my MacBook Pro, my 15-inch MacBook Pro, which this is the early 2019 version, the 15-inch MacBook Pro of 2018 was literally like a jet engine. Like if you wanted to do anything that was sensitive to sound, like podcasting or audio recording or any of that kind of stuff, you couldn't have your laptop on your desk. You would have to put it like someplace else and use an external screen because it was just too loud. So yeah. Yes, that is the way the cookie crumbles, Drone Lord. The iMac is pointless. Get a MacBook Air or an external monitor you can use for everything else. I don't disagree with you. I mean, the utility of the MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro or even the Mac Mini, if you factor in the savings that are available with a Mac Mini, the only reason that you would want to buy an iMac is you've been waiting waiting all these years for Necco wafer colored, Mentos colored iMacs. You want a small form factor desktop that's not going to break the bank. Um, I I don't get it really. I don't get it. Um, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I said before. The Mac Mini, the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, the iMac, and the iPad. 5 different models of Apple products now have the same processor with basically the same capabilities, all in different form factors, so that it's impossible to say, like, this one is better than the other. The MacBook Air has a touch bar. It's a little bit more hefty than the MacBook. The MacBook Pro has a touch bar, a little bit more hefty than the MacBook Air, but not by enough that it really makes that much of a difference, right? And it's not any more powerful, although the lowest end model of the MacBook Air only has 7 cores instead of 8 cores of processing in the GPU, which is not going to make that much of a difference for 99% of all the people who are going to buy that computer. The MacBook Mini, it has the best I/O of any of these Macs. You're not going to get the benefit of that 4.5K screen, and anybody who's used an iMac will agree with me that the iMac screens are part of the reason why you buy an iMac. You're not going to get a better screen. You know, those LG whatever the LG displays are that are supposed to basically be the separated monitor of the iMacs that you can buy for stupid money. Why would you pay $1,100-$1,200 for a screen that you could get inside of the computer for, I don't know, for the same price as the monitor, basically? So yeah, it's really hard to recommend one device over the other. The iPads are hindered by the fact that they can't run Mac OS programs that people would want to run on them. I guess if you want something that's like super thin and super portable and has a malleable form factor in that you can use a keyboard or not, and then the iPad might make sense if you're never going to use it for any professional programs. But if you are, then it's a tough buy. It's a tough buy. But to me, like, I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube where people are talking about the Mac Mini, base model Mac Mini, 8 gigabytes of RAM and the M1 chip with 256 gigabytes of storage at $700 is all the computer they need. And these are people who do what I do. These are people who make videos and that kind of thing. And I will say, having used the M1 Macs, I've had the Mac Mini, I've had the MacBook Pro. They will tear through the video stuff, but not everything is caught up to Big Sur and the M1 chip yet. So I think if you're somebody working in a professional capacity with computers, then you owe it to yourself to wait until they've been around for at least a year. But then again, I don't know. I do know that the audio gear that I had trouble with when I first bought the Mac, when I first bought the M1 when it first came out, a lot of that stuff has been worked out for a lot of the companies, but not all of them, and it'll take a while. So I never did get the MacBook Air, so I can't speak to personal experience, but I will say that in all of the videos and all of the benchmarks and everything else that I've seen, nobody really saw significant thermal throttling. I mean, these chips do not get hot. I think part of the problem is people are used to a certain paradigm of how to think about computers and performance and heat and how all those things affect one another. Because GPUs created heat, CPUs created heat. You know, all of the stuff flowing from one place to the other created a certain amount of heat, and so heat and thermals were a big deal. And we know this from, you know, the 2018 MacBook i9 MacBook Pros, but that's a lot of that was because of the amount of power needed to generate the power that was possible, et cetera, et cetera. These M1 chips are just, I mean, they're ARM chips, just like what's been in the iPhone, just like what's been in the iPad. They run cool to the touch in almost like a freaky way. Like if you're used to using a MacBook and you then get a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro with an M1 chip in it, and you pick it up after using it for a couple of hours and it's cold to the touch, that's a little bit weird. And it takes a little while to get used to it. And so yeah, it's Apple is gonna Apple has really changed the paradigm of the computer, like the personal computer, the laptop computer. Like these M1 chips have changed the entire paradigm. They're not fully mature yet. They have all kinds of issues. So, you know, for one, last time I heard they couldn't run Boot Camp. They can't. I think I might have just heard that they got eGPU support now, but they didn't have when they put them together. So, yeah. Hugo says things I want on a MacBook Pro. I assume you're talking about like the 16-inch or whatever it's going to be. More RAM, more cores, mini LED display, small bezels, more ports. Yeah, I mean, the way that the RAM has played out, and sort of the general consensus, the general thought process about the RAM is that with these M1 chips, because the RAM is integrated into the board or into the chip, 8 is 16, 16 is 32, 32 is 64. So if they give us a 32 option with the more quote unquote professional machines, then that'll be great. Cores, I don't know exactly how the cores work in these. I mean, an 8-core M1 chip seems to be, I mean, they have their high performance chips, and then they have the ones that kind of just do the thing, do the more basic stuff, and they split the workload. So I don't know exactly how that's gonna play out with the more powerful machines. Mini LED display would be nice. Smaller bezels also would be nice, and I think that it's pretty safe to say it might be like the iMac, where we get smaller bezels but not no bezels. More ports. I guess stranger things have happened, but I don't see them going backwards. I don't see them going backwards and giving us more ports when they took away all the ports on the iMac. You know, the iMac used to have useful ports like SD card reader and USB-A and and Ethernet, although the two more expensive models have Ethernet on the charging brick. So I don't know. Right now, as I said, the hardest thing about this whole deal is that all of the machines that they have released, from the iPad all the way down to the MacBook Air and the Mac Mini, they're all the same computer. And so it just creates this log jam of like each of them has some well, not fatal, but some compromise that you have to make. Some compromise, some flaw that you have to deal with in order to decide to use that, right? And there's no separation between them. Like if the difference was, well, it's $2,000 for a 16-inch MacBook Pro and it can do this and it has this spec, or it's you know, $1,200, $1,400 for an iPad that has nearly as much power. maybe then there's a choice. I don't know. Right now, it's just almost impossible to make a choice. You could go out to buy any of them and just like play pin the tail on the donkey at Best Buy, and you would get the same computer. So it's just really weird. It's just really weird. Um, oh, 4 US. So Yugo means 4 USB-C 3. Four USB-C Type 4 Thunderbolt ports. Yeah. Well, people are complaining a little bit about the fact that and it is, if you're a power user, it is somewhat how shall we say, somewhat limiting to only have 2 ports. Yes. But the Pro models, the 15 and 16-inch MacBook Pros always had 4 anyway. So I think we can assume that we're going to get 4 ports, 2 and 2, right? I think we can assume that. So I think we're safe. We're safe there. Yeah, and Thomas brings up a good point here. It is weird that now choosing an Apple computer is just like choosing an iPhone. It's like, do I want the big iPhone? Do I want the smaller iPhone? Do I want the cheaper iPhone? They all have, but the iPhones actually have slightly more differences between them, at least between the iPhone 12 Pro and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. You got a camera difference, right? And then the iPhone 12, you've got yet another camera difference and a form factor difference and I think a screen difference. I can't remember. They, and as Tech Nerd says, they may put the M1 in every. I think I think with the Pro machines they'll have whatever it is that they're going to call it, M2 or M1X or whatever. They will have a more powerful machine. I don't know if that means more cores and more RAM, or if it means more powerful cores. I have no idea, because this is all new territory. But at the same time, like, yeah, at least at that point there'll be a choice. And then the interesting conversation will be, okay, now we have the more powerful machines, and we have the more basic machines. The more powerful machine, like if we're talking about a MacBook Pro 16-inch, it's got a bigger screen, it's got more ports. And then the conversation will be, do I really need that? Or is this powerful enough? So the discussion to this point has been, well, you don't need a MacBook Mini or a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro 13-inch or an iPad or whatever, because you're a power user, you're a professional user, and these machines aren't made for you. But the real conversation will begin when we have the more professional options and we see how they perform over these. Because what Apple is going to have to do is give us something more than more performance, because these machines have showed that they can perform at a high level. We're just making sacrifices in terms of form function and that kind of thing. But once we have the opportunity to choose, say, between a 16-inch MacBook Pro that's $2,000 or a 13-inch MacBook Pro that's $1,400, and we see the performance differences between them, that's when we'll really have to make the choice, and that's when that's when the rubber will meet the road. Yeah, and I don't even know, like, maybe I'm sure that there will be a 32 gig of RAM option, but I was really surprised when it was only 8 and 16, and you could only buy 8 off the shelf. Like a 16 gigabyte anything is a special order, basically. So I don't know what to expect with any of this. So yeah, Darren says that got a 256 gig iPad and 32 gig Apple TV, and May 27th is the I looked after I got back from taking my daughter to school, and the iPad delivery dates were already in June. So good for you, man. I mean, I kind of just assumed like if I decided I wanted an iPad, I could probably stop at Best Buy and grab one, or go to Verizon. And so my current iPad is through Verizon. Actually, I bought it at Best Buy, but it's through Verizon, so I could probably do the same thing because they will have some in stores, and I don't imagine that there'll be a big run on the stores. Um, but I'm surprised that their orders are brisk enough to push back the delivery dates, unless that's because of the chip shortage that everybody is dealing with at this point. Uh, All right, 27 says 11-inch was still in May and 12.9 was in June. Yeah, I'm on the fence about the Apple TV. I don't. Well, okay, so I have the Apple TV 4K right now, and the Apple TV 4K that they're putting out with the A12 chip in it. Somebody, I think it was Greg's Gadgets, pointed out that the graphics performance on paper seems like it's less than the graphics performance on the current chip, but that doesn't seem like it'd be possible. I mean, we're talking about a couple of differences in generations of chips, so that doesn't seem like it's possible. But then, but then the only things that draw me toward that are the HDMI 2.1 and the remote control. Those are really the only two things. So the A12 Geekbench is lower than the A10X. Yeah, I'm surprised that it's not the A12. It's not an A12X, because that seems like it would make more sense. Maxwell says, I woke up at 3:30 this morning to try and get it ordered, and I've been up since. And when I ordered my 12.9 1 terabyte iPad Pro, 32 gigabyte Apple TV, it was sliding in dates in the first 5 minutes. Interesting. I can only imagine that has something to do with this chip shortage that everybody's been going through, but I can't say that for sure, because that seems weird. That seems weird compared to other Apple stuff. Josh on the Twitter or the Twitch. And why do I say Twitter when I mean Twitch? What's going on, man? It's good to see you. Yes, you can buy the remote separately. Hugo is correct. It's $70, and it's compatible with all the different Apple TVs. So the only reason I would pay the extra $110 for an Apple TV would be for the HDMI 2.1, and for the fact that for some reason my Apple TV has acted weird, and every once in a while when I have Dolby Vision running, which I run all the time because why not? Sometimes the signal will flip out and just go black for a second and come back. But I changed my HDMI cable to a better cable, and that fixed it for a while, but then it started to happen again. So maybe there's something in the HDMI port, because it's not my TV. It happened on my older OLED. It's happening on this newer OLED. So that yeah, that's the whole deal. That's the only reason I'd buy a new Apple TV. But I will say, and this is ticking me off. I was going to mention this in my Mac Mini, or not, I've got Mac on the brain, in my HomePod Mini video that I put out yesterday. If you haven't watched that, then go check it out. HomePod Mini review. I was going to mention this, but then it seemed like kind of off the topic for the HomePod Mini, so I didn't. Ever since the new version of tvOS came out and I updated, my HomePods won't properly connect to my Apple TV to be used as the speakers. They'll connect, but then when I try and play any kind of anything, it it sort of stutters and stops, and then it won't play anymore. So I don't know what's going on. I hope they didn't break that function just because that's gonna suck. That's gonna suck because that's the one reason I like the HomePods. That was the reason for me to own the HomePods. So if that function is broken now, I'm gonna have to just go ahead and sell them. Are they selling for more than they used to cost now that they're not there anymore? Have I updated the HomePod software? Oh, that's a good question. I will have to check because I never think about that. I always assume that it would just like update itself. And I haven't been using an iPhone because I've been using the Galaxy S21 Ultra. And let me tell you, I've said this before, I'll say it again. This came out in January. It's now May. This is at least like 6 weeks longer than I've ever used a Samsung device as my daily driver. So that says something about this particular phone. So hold on, reading. Josh, I'm doing good, man. You know, living the dream. So Kayvon is having problems with your AirPods Pro. Oh. I think they introduced something weird in this most recent update, and it's unfortunate. I haven't seen anybody complain about it, but then again, people are really reluctant to complain about Apple. I mean, not everybody. I mean, but the people who have the biggest voices in the tech community are reluctant to complain about Apple, and so maybe that's why we haven't heard about this. But I assume that there would be some kind of big outcry, like, "Oh my God, my HomePods don't work with my Apple TV anymore." And I don't think it's that they're Apple fanboys. I mean, the reality of doing this tech thing, especially if you're an independent operator like most YouTubers are, is that you have to kind of you have to kind of play nice with the companies if you want to have those relationships. And now that Apple sends products out for free, then there's much more incentive to be less critical if you are somebody who has the one of those relationships where Apple will send you stuff free. Now, I'm not saying that these people are unethical. It's just kind of like I don't know. I don't know. It's just I haven't seen as much complaining as I thought I would about some of the things that have popped up recently. Like, I think I mentioned this the other day, but my Apple Pencil 2 that I paid a bunch of money for, I let the battery drain a few times because I didn't want to keep it like 100% all the time connected to my Apple or to my iPad. And then after I put it back on after a while, like I hadn't used it for a bit, and it wouldn't charge. It wouldn't charge. Like, it would recognize that the Apple Pencil was being attached. And then I'd leave it there and then I'd take it off. It wouldn't charge. And I do some research and find out this is a thing. If you don't keep your Apple Pencil 2 charged, then then it can stop charging altogether and will be dead and you will be screwed. So I'm screwed. I just have to buy another Apple Pencil, which I don't want to do. Because part of the reason that it was running out of battery is that I wasn't using it nearly as much as I would have hoped that I would. So there's, you know what I'm saying. But I've not seen nary a video, nobody complaining about this. It's obviously been a thing since the thing started, so why isn't anybody complaining, right? Michael says, I'll be critical and give praise where deserved with all companies. And starting off that way, companies will know going into it. So far, a few companies I've worked with haven't had issues with it. Yeah, it's there. I think there is a way to be able to have those conversations and to be critical and still maintain those relationships. But I think a lot of people, especially people who rely on YouTube for their living, and getting those early views on embargoed products that can come out sometimes days and weeks before anybody ever gets their hands on the products. Otherwise, that's a powerful motivator, even if subconsciously, to soft pedal any kind of criticism. Because I can tell you from experience, like if you're overly critical of a product, the next time around you won't be on the list for getting that product. Yeah, and I will say for my own self, that I recognize that I probably could have been more diplomatic and still said the same things that I said about that product and gotten my message across. But I get a little feisty sometimes. Bill X says, a live video about ordering something from Apple, will it get even more crazy? I don't know, man. You want me to take my clothes off? What are you asking for here, Bill? This is something that people, people want to talk about. So we're talking about it. Yeah. Yeah. Are you talking about the pencil? Or are you talking about me taking the clothes off? You go. Yeah, no, you can't replace the battery in an Apple Pencil or in the AirPod. That's why so many people complain about wireless headphones in general. Wireless headphones have a certain useful lifespan. Once the battery dies in most of the wireless headphones that everybody owns, then they will be dead. And you'll have to buy new ones, and there's nothing you can do about it. Whereas wired headphones don't have that problem, have never had that problem. And there are people who have had high quality or low quality wired headphones for years upon years upon years upon years, and there's no shelf life to it. So that's one thing that some people have complained about with wireless headphones, and other things that have locked in batteries. And it's one thing with a smartphone. Smartphones are going to be obsolete to a certain extent within the lifespan of a lithium-ion battery. So upgrading a smartphone makes sense. But what is really going to happen? What is really going to happen when there's not going to be an upgrade to your AirPods that's going to make them, that's going to make them better? So like AirPods 3 aren't going to be significantly better than AirPods 2 or 1. So yeah. Some headphones Josh is right. Some headphones you can change the batteries. But any earbud, you're pretty much screwed. Hugo says early access exclusivity to products being the same as having paying a content creator for a review. Yeah, you can make that argument for sure. That's not to say that there aren't people out there who are very trustworthy and honest and have a code that they follow and all that. But when there are so many people out there making tech videos, making YouTube videos in general, and you have an opportunity to get a leg up and you want to build your business, and it is your business, it's not just a hobby at that point, then yeah, I mean, it's indirect, but you do have the benefit of getting all of those views, right? You do have and so that is money in your pocket. That's money in your pocket that won't be in the pocket of the people who don't have that benefit. So, but it's the way that the whole thing works. I mean, think about this for a second. Let's just take a quick detour and talk about YouTube reviews. YouTube as a platform, and how YouTube reviews act as advertising for companies and their products, right? Now, in traditional media, getting your commercial to advertise your product on television had a certain cost, and that cost could be, sort of figured out by looking at how many eyeballs are looking at that TV show, and how much are those eyeballs worth at what time, et cetera, et cetera. And so ad rates could be established, and television people had to pay those ad rates, right? Well, on YouTube, now it's basically, well, the YouTuber can't take money the same way the network could take money, because the network is the network, and the creators are the creators, and everybody knew that television was a that television was a for-profit business, right? But YouTube doesn't have that same reputation. So when someone like Marques Brownlee or Unbox Therapy or any of these YouTubers that get, hundreds of thousands of views on their videos about these products, if they're getting they're getting the product for free, and it's unethical for them to take money for the product to slot it into their upload cycle, right? So these companies are getting what would have been multi-millions of dollars worth of advertising for the cost of a free product. And some like Apple and other companies make you give the thing back. So there's, it's a good scam. Companies have a lot of power, and a lot of people who are willing to do whatever it takes to put their products in front of people for little to no money out of pocket for the company whatsoever. And yeah, it is unfortunate, but that's the way it works. If with the authority in terms of audience that Marques Brownlee has, he could, if he was talent that was represented by an advertising agency and all that kind of stuff, and it was a different business model altogether, like, he could be making so much more money than he is. But that's the thing about YouTube. YouTube is not supposed to be about making money. YouTube has this reputation of being about one person talking to another, not sullied by any of this business stuff, just like straight up honest reviews from some guy in his converted garage. But it's not that anymore. It's big business. So there is an inherent weirdness attached. Let me see. Now I'm going to catch up with the chat. All right. You guys are talking amongst yourselves, which means I was talking about nothing. Alejandro says, seems like a lose-lose situation. You bought if you receive a product for review, therefore business, and you lose revenue, even if you try and pure moral and decline products to review. It's not even the products so much, right? I mean, I take products from companies and review them. And what I try and do is, if I seek out a product to review, usually it's from a company, or it's about products that I like or want to check out myself, right? And so one of the perks for me is that if I want that product and I talk to the manufacturer and they send me that product, then I don't have to take that money out of my own pocket, and it's a win-win for everybody. They get some coverage from me, and I get the product that I was looking to check out without having to put money out of pocket. However, even that is a little bit of a weird gray area, because you could still argue that, well, Jason, you got it for free, so how can you not be swayed by that? I get stuff from companies oftentimes, and sometimes I just won't review them. Like there's a set of headphones that I have right now that I got for review, and I hadn't reviewed them yet, and the reviews of them were super uh, super positive. And the first couple of times I used them, I was really impressed with them as well. But a couple of weeks into using them, they suddenly stopped working correctly, and I was gonna wait for I was gonna wait for a firmware update. Firmware update came and broke the headphones even more. um, and so I think I'm gonna have to at this point email the company and be like, look, you know, I see the potential in this product, but I don't want to I don't want to review these and just be like they don't work, because you know that may or may not be the case down the line. So it's just a really weird thing. Um, talking about advertising, Secret Lab chairs get a lot of free advertising for the extra warranty. Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, I'm sitting in a Secret Lab chair right now, and Secret Lab sent me first. They sent me the vinyl version of their Titan chair, and I made a video about it. I was really positive about it, because I think this is, of the gaming chairs that I've used, and this is one of the most expensive. So there aren't too many out there that are like over and above this. This is the highest quality chair that I have ever used compared to the other 3, 4, or 5 that I've tried. I've been sitting in a Secret Lab chair for well over a year at this point. Still feels like the day it was new. Secret Lab has an affiliate program, and I made a video last year that a lot of people watched when they had to figure out what are they going to sit on while they have to work at home. And I ended up doing, that affiliate program put, money in the bank, and groceries in the cabinets and that kind of thing. But I can say most definitely that I made that video, and I talked positively about the chair, because I still feel very, very much so that this is one of the best desk chairs that you can go out and get. And Josh, I've told you that. And I think, and you went out and bought one. But yeah, it's just one of those things, right? I don't think that you could ever have complete I don't think that you could ever have complete, like, bias-free reviews. Like somebody was mentioning, like, Tech Rant, and yeah, so Deepak is mentioning me and Eric from Easy Computer Solutions and Tech Rant, and the thing is, like, we all made, like, at some point we're making a choice: get the product, don't get the product, take the product, don't take the product, take the money, don't take the money. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we're all making a choice. So it's like, it's not like we don't have some bias in play regardless. My bias is all personal. I will tell you what I feel about a product. Now, what I feel and think, and what my experience has been with the product might not be the same as anybody else's. Somebody might have had a different experience, and so they have a different feeling about that product. But I'm not so much interested in like an unbiased review, because I feel like unbiased reviews, the only way you could be unbiased is if you told everybody like what it said on the back of the box. Like what are the specifications? What can it do? Maybe if it's a smartphone, take a few pictures, don't editorialize, don't say anything about what you think. Um and then but that's a to me that's useless. I can read the specs online. I can go to the website, you know? Oh, nugs, man. 200K today? I don't know. I've been in this cycle of like gain 50, lose 50 over the course of the past couple of months. So I would I would love to. But yeah, it's just been it's been a weird. Sometimes YouTube cycles like this, and I don't know exactly why, but yeah, it cycles through. If all things being equal, like if you would have told me that I hadn't made 200,000 subs by, before Thanksgiving of last year, I would have said something must have gone wrong. But yeah, it's just been a weird time. So yeah, I'll get there. I'll get there. I would love to try the Embody chair. I have used like the Herman Miller Aeron chairs. So those have been ubiquitous in recording studios for, I don't know, 25 years. And so I've used the Aeron chairs, and the Aeron chairs are the real deal. They are like an Aeron chair or some Herman Miller style chair, whether it's the Embody or something like that, is probably the only thing that I would trade out the Secret Lab chairs for, because everything that I've seen up to this point, in terms of gaming chairs, are just not to this quality. Like, so they sent me the vinyl one, and that's what I did my initial review on. Then they got in touch with me around the beginning of the year, and they said, we'll send you the Napa leather one, and we'll send you the soft weave fabric one, and then you can do a comparison video. I'm working on that comparison video. So now I have the vinyl one is in my office upstairs. This is the leather one, and I kept the fabric one to put together during the video. So yeah, chairs are very important. Don't get it wrong. You go from your chat to whoever's, to the YouTube God's ears. That would be awesome. I mean, at the end of the day, all I can do is like keep making videos, and and hope that people like them. At this point, like the subscriber numbers, the only thing that I use them for is to think like, okay, does it seem like new people are coming on and enjoying the videos that I make? But I can't even make that judgment call. So I just, I'm just trying to figure out what, how to make the best videos that I can make in the way that I want to make them for the people that want to see them. And hopefully that ends up being, a living that I can get by on, and videos that people enjoy watching. That's pretty much my mantra at this point. I mean, Josh Red Falcon has been a friend of mine now for a while. He's been, since I think really early on, when I was still just doing gaming headset videos at that point. So there are several people who are still around the channel who have been watching since really early. So yeah. Okay, so Bill has a question. What's the best DAW? I want to make some techno. Okay, so Logic Pro is great, and they have now put together some sequential sample-based stuff that you can do within Logic. Ableton Live is the de facto default. Like if you want to make any kind of electronic sequential type music, Ableton Live is the one that really has it's not well that supports that the best, and the most people who make that music seem to use Ableton Live. So I would check that. The only problem with Ableton is like for the bigger packages is expensive as hell. Logic is what, $300, and you get all the updates and all the sample packs and all that kind of stuff for free. So Logic is a great deal. Ableton is what most people use for that kind of stuff. Studio One from Presonus now has a similar kind of workflow that you can get into. You can do that stuff with any DAW. So it's just a matter of like, once you choose a DAW, it is very hard to change. Like I'm changing from Logic right now to Studio One because Studio One has some stuff that I like a lot. And I'm also using Windows right now, and I can't use Logic on Windows. So so Studio One and also Presonus. I got in touch with Presonus because I've just been interested in their stuff, and they sent me this microphone. This is the Presonus, was it Revenant? I don't know. Revelator. Presonus Revelator USB microphone, and they gave me a year of like their entire Studio One setup. So I'm trying that. And Studio One is pretty cool. I haven't tried the Rolly Seaboard. It looks really cool. I don't know that for me and my personal style of stuff that I would use the functionality of like the sort of swoopy weird stuff that it does. Then Rolly has now put out like an RGB version of a keyboard, which is weird. And Maxwell Bates is right. If you are a student or if you are faculty, I believe as well, you can. I didn't get Maxwell's. Yeah, here we go. I'm selecting these from the chat, and so if I try and select something and somebody just chats at the same time, I end up getting the wrong one. If you're a student, you can get the Pro Apps bundle from Apple for like $200, and that's Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro. Does that also include Motion and Compressor, or are those still separate? Motion and Compressor both are like $50 regularly. So, but yes, Restream is still with me. Restream and I are still doing our thing. And if you have live streaming needs, I encourage you to check out Restream. I was using a different platform. Restream got in touch about sponsoring the channel. They allow you to multi-stream to different platforms, all from this one place. So right now I'm streaming to Facebook, YouTube, 2 YouTube channels, 2 Facebook pages, Twitter, and Twitch, all at the same time. But the one thing, they have a free platform that is a great way to get started. There's a lot of stuff offered in the free platform, and Restream has basically been paying the bills for the past couple of months, which I really appreciate because I do really like their service. However, we're discovering that my audience might not, the audience that comes to watch my videos might not be the audience that comes and also wants to have information about, what's the best live streaming platform. And so I need to convert more people over to Restream and get people to check it out in order to keep Restream on board as a channel sponsor. Just straight up honest about it. That's the way it's going to be. So if you have been or are interested in live streaming on a web-based platform, restream.io/join/PHT. And that will get you. In fact, here's the tagline that we came up with for Restream. um, but yeah, just even to check it out, go over there, sign up, use my code. It's down in the description below, and it will get you into being able to do stuff for free. If you sign up for one of the paid things, you get $10 off if you use my code. So I would really appreciate anybody going to check out Restream. It's not the kind of thing where you have to lock yourself into for years and years and years, but if I can get things looking good in terms of people signing up, then I will continue to have a relationship with Restream, and I would love to be able to do that. So this is a call to action, people. This is me not quite begging, but highly encouraging, because Restream is actually a very, very good platform. And one of the reasons why I chose to go with Restream as a sponsor over the other platform that I had used before. So yeah. What are the specs on my current machine? So what I'm using right now is it's a i7 9700K GTX 2080, 64 gigs of DDR4. I think it's 3,300 megahertz. I can't remember. It was one of those. Couple of M.2 drives in there, a couple of spinning hard drives for storage. So that's what I'm working with right now. I also have the Razer, the 15-inch Razer blade from last year. Yeah. So yeah, 3200. Yeah, Nokia is supposedly coming back with new phones. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, tell your friend about it. Seriously, like, if you do any streaming whatsoever, or you know anybody who does, it's worth checking Restream out for free and just helping me get my numbers up. My family thanks you. the grocery store where I buy food. How can you support me without funding YouTube? That's a good question. I do have I guess I do have PayPal. I've never pushed PayPal's away, but PayPal is one thing that you could do. It's painfully honest tech, all one word, at gmail.com is my PayPal. I'll type that in here. I can't type. There we go. Make sure I spell it right. Yeah, so if you ever want to support without, giving YouTube a portion of the money, then you can do the PayPal. I do still have Patreon, although it's like kind of like it's on the down low right now. I've been doing the YouTube membership thing because it offers people cool stuff like, little flair that they can have on their chats and little things like that. And it's integrated into YouTube, so it's a little bit easier to handle. But I get the sense that people aren't like really interested in YouTube memberships, and Patreon is still something that people do a lot. So I may go back to Patreon. I'm not sure, but otherwise, yeah, PayPal is an easy way to support as well. I've been doing that Newegg shuffle thing for forever, and I have not been shuffled any kind of graphics card. Roberto says that he has pre-ordered the 12.9 iPad Pro pencil keyboard. Yeah, they get you with those accessories, man. But yeah, I look forward to hearing what you think. I look forward to hearing what you think, because that is a powerful what memory and RAM spec did you get, or what storage and RAM spec did you get on there? My plan for the old Discord server is to try and bring it back, and get people going. I haven't been on there for a while. I know like you, me, and a few other people were on there initially, but that's been a while ago. So maybe there's enough critical mass to get people on there and do the Discord thing and have conversations, because it just kind of it didn't take off. Well, that was almost like 2 years ago at this point, I think. So yeah, I'm gonna try and get the Discord going again. I need an assistant. I need a virtual assistant, and I haven't yet been able to get a virtual assistant. That might sound stupid, but the thing is, like, I want to be if I'm going to do these things, I want to be able to like support them and keep them going, so other people can if I can get other people to help me do that and support some of the stuff, so it doesn't take me like all the time, then it'll work better. I just don't want to do it when it's not going to be, when I'm not going to be able to pay enough attention to it for it to work the way that it should. Also, Roberto got the 1 terabyte. Yeah, that's the perfect use for the iPad too. I mean, if you're a graphic artist of any kind, I really think that it is the perfect device. And so I think that's going to be incredible for you. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be great. Bill asks, what do you think of the current GPU situation and prices? I mean, it's kind of the perfect storm, isn't it? You've got, on one hand, you've got chip shortage, which is making things not easy to get, and then you've also got crypto mining that's impacting the whole deal as well. So the truth of the matter is, like, I know, like Josh was saying, his 1080 is getting a little long in the tooth. For the most part, like, if you've got a 1080, you should be okay. I think that, as long as you're like within 2 generations of the current graphics card, you're gonna be okay for the majority of stuff. I know games like Cyberpunk were, intensive graphics games, but that's the exception, not so much the rule with that kind of stuff. I don't know Telegram. I've heard about Telegram, but I haven't used it. And yes, I should get some moderators for the Discord. Over the weekend, I'll look back into the Discord and try and get that fired up, and see what we can do about getting it going again. Because I would like to have some way of, like, easier back and forth discussions. I mean, I love doing the live streams and having these conversations and stuff like that. But the more I can talk to the folks who enjoy the channel, and the more I can be sort of responsive to what people want to see, what people want to talk about. Like Rene Ritchie has said a few times on Twitter, and I've heard him say it in live streams as well, that like the way to sort of be more sane on YouTube is to not think algorithm, but instead think audience. And that's like a tricky that's a tricky balance, because while, like, you love the audience that you have, and you really and you want to make videos that they want to see, there's also, like, millions of people out there who have never seen any of my videos, so I want to reach those people too. So yeah, it's interesting. It's always a weird balancing act. Maxwell says, if you're interested in advanced iPad productivity, he's got MaxBait Talks Tech channel. Yeah, I've heard about Pushcart and iPad. There are a couple of different iPad channels. There's also Christopher Lawley who does a lot of good things with iPad stuff. So yeah, that's cool, man. I will have to check that out. Koto asks, do you think the M1 Mac is worth it, or might want to wait for the M2 M1X rumored later this year? I mean, we were talking about this a little bit before, Actually, this the chat highlight feature is something that I can do in Restream. This is a Restream feature where I can select the chat and and sort of highlight it while I read it and talk about it, and then select another or hide it. So yeah, this is a Restream feature, and I've come to really rely on it quite a bit. As for the M1 iMac, um, I feel like it's going to be a powerful enough machine, right? It's going to be powerful enough. Um, it depends on what you want to do with it. And the unknown is like, are the new ones going to blow it out of the water? I don't know. I mean, at this point, with the M1s, you can do just about anything that you need to do. I mean, there are plenty of people who are doing high level video production and everything like that. It's not, it's not fully developed in terms of like all software and hardware supporting it, but it's very powerful. How much of a change is that going to be when it comes to the machines that come later? I don't know, because if these are this powerful, like how much more powerful do you need? um and yeah, the screen size is bigger than the smallest iMac, but it's still not all that big. I mean, basically the downsides of the new iMac are the screen size, the port selection, and I guess whether or not you like colors. And so it's just kind of like one of those things where you have to decide if what you're losing in hardware, in terms of like, only 2 ports on the laptops and that sort of thing, you have to decide if those are good enough. Those are things that you can suffer losing. And like I say, having used them myself, I know that they can handle like just about anything. But one thing I can say is that I think now we're going to see Mac computers be kind of like iPhones. It's like these days you can pick up an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 8, and the performance of an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 8 is not that different from the iPhone 12, right? So if the perform and that's kind of been the way it's been with iPhones, like the chips age really well. So I think that Macs are going to be like that now as well, because these chips, it's going to take them longer to be taxed by whatever comes next. So yeah, to me it's about like whether or not you want to sort of take the hit on the non-proness of it, which I found to be a problem for me, and that's why I don't have an M1 right now. And I'm going to wait for the more expensive ones, but it might not be the case for other people. And yeah, like Alcrobix says here, people don't even use the power of their PCs 99% of the time. At a certain point, yeah, for the target market of this iMac and these all the M1 devices, 99% of everybody who has one is not gonna push it to its limits, and they're going to be really solid, email and web browsing and light productivity machines for people for years to come. So it's just for each consumer, like, it's made the discussion really difficult, because as I said earlier, the Mac Mini, the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, the iPad, the iMac are all the same computer. They have all the same internals, and so it's just, you're picking and choosing between one or two hardware differences, and then trying to like hedge against and gamble on what might be coming later, which we don't know. So could you go out and buy a MacBook Air and be super happy with it for years to come? Yeah. But as Hugo says here, if you're sort of in a niche workload, you do high level CAD work, or compiling of data, or if you do like super heavy duty video work, anything that's already taxing on computers, I would say it's better to wait so that you don't buy something and then find, it's like buying a pair of pants that you hope that you fit into. you never you never really get you never really get down to the size that you hope that you'll be to fit into those pants, right? So Deepak says that M1 MacBook with 16 gigs and 1 terabyte, super cool. Yeah, even with a 120 track Logic Pro. Yeah. That's the thing. If you're using Logic or Final Cut, or any of the Apple programs, or any of the stuff that's been optimized for M1, like I know Adobe has done a pretty good job of optimizing their stuff. But yeah, if you can run 120 tracks of Logic in a Logic project with, and I assume there's like, you've got some plugins and everything else on top of that. If you can do that and not have any hiccups, then you're fine. It's just a matter of like, for me, what really ended up making it difficult was I had the MacBook Pro. I needed to have 2 additional monitors. I could not put in 2 additional monitors because it doesn't support more than 1 monitor. And that's niche, I guess, because I'm doing video production and live streaming, and I wanted to be able to have things in different places. Of course, right now I'm using 1 monitor, but it's one big monitor. So yeah, it's like the niche workload is the whole thing. And unfortunately, we can't know what we can't really know what the capabilities or the hardware configurations are going to be when the next batch of machines comes out. So you kind of have to just, for me, a lot of times it's just FOMO. I'm like, I want it now. So I go and buy it and face the consequences later. But the benefit for me of doing that is that the fact that I do this YouTube thing, I can communicate like what my experience has been, and you can benefit from like, oh geez, I'm thinking about buying that. Well, Jason has some of the same use case issues as I do, and he's having these problems, and so therefore maybe I need to wait. But yeah, I've never been very patient about things. I love new things. So Michael says, perhaps Apple is bringing out the M1X too soon. Nice to see the M1 fares over a couple of years, especially with software makers optimizing for the chip. I think that I don't disagree with you, Michael. I mean, the M1 chip is super, super capable, and it is going to take some time for software and hardware developers to catch up. But I think the one issue with the M1 as it exists now is, other than the Mac Mini, which has a decent number of ports available, it still has the 2 monitor cap, but it has a decent number of ports available. The problem is, like, if you're a pro, if you're using a pro workload, whatever that might look like, laptops with 2 USB-C Thunderbolt ports and that kind of thing might be constricting over the span of time. So the hope is that the M1X might bring some more performance, but it also might bring some more compatibility and flexibility to the designs. But right now there's not enough difference between any of the machines to really say one is the standout. That the Mac Mini has more ports, etc., but it also doesn't have monitor, and the cost of buying a monitor that might rival the iMac monitor is crazy. So then, you've got that issue. And then you've got the mini, or not the mini, but the Air and the Pro laptops, but they're 13 inches. And that might not be something, for somebody traveling, who might want something bigger if they're doing graphic related work. And then the iMacs have like a little bit of all the problems. They limited the port selection. They made the monitor smaller. They don't give you very much selection in terms of like upgradability or anything like that. So it just becomes like a really weird, everything is a slight compromise, but basically they're all the same. And then there's the iPad, which is potentially the most attractive of all of them, but it doesn't run the software that you would want to be able to, if you are a professional who wants to use that machine, over and above people who work in graphic design of some kind, the iPad is just not up to snuff. Until you can run the programs that need to be run in order to have a professional workflow, then, and by professional workflow, I mean like professional audio, video, et cetera, the things that people as professionals a lot of times use Macs for. Until you can do that on an iPad is still a very limited device. And that, again, this is assuming that 99% of everybody could be really satisfied with whatever's out there. Get any one of those computers and be like, hey, this is great. I don't need any more, and I'm perfectly happy. It's an awesome computer. It's that other like 1 or 2% that have to make these kinds of decisions. Wait or just go for it and see what happens. And I think that Hugo is right. I mean, I've said similar things. The M1 chip, in terms of the computer landscape, the M1 chip is the biggest like disruptor of the marketplace since the iPhone. I mean, it has the potential to be that kind of paradigm shift when it comes to what computers are capable of at what different price points. Michael says here, maybe the laptop will start at $2,999. But I don't think it will. I mean, the MacBook Pro that I have over there was a $2,800 MacBook Pro, right? There was no difference in performance in, just in large, broad strokes. No difference in performance really between that MacBook Pro with an i9 chip, 16 gigs of RAM, and the M1 with 8 gigs of RAM. And, the price difference was $1,200. So, I mean, I don't know that Apple will be able to bump the performance up. I mean, again, we're in totally new territory, so who knows? But I don't believe that Apple's going to be able to bump the performance of whatever the next chipset is up to the place where they could justify making those laptops more expensive than what already exists. I mean, yeah, you can spec out a MacBook Pro 16 at this point and spend like $8,000 on it, but I think that the days of $8,000 MacBooks are gone. I think that Apple is moving into a new paradigm where what they want and need to do is get these devices into hands of people and make them a value proposition that they weren't before, so that they can then like deliver the services that they want to deliver. And in doing so, they get the leg up on Intel and everything that's going to be Intel based. I mean, the only real big gap that remains is the gaming gap. and I don't see that gap closing. I just think that the infrastructure of gaming and how it works is going to be such that we can't, like, nobody's going to develop for the Mac. Suddenly, like, there's not going to be AAA games on the Mac. It's just they just don't work the same way the rest of the games do. So it would have to be a whole different development process. Oh, Ricardo's bringing up some. That's good. Yeah, 10% off for all veterans and active military on Veterans Day. So, yeah, keep that in mind. 10% is, tax plus a little bit more. Hugo, thank you for the $5 super chat. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Serge, thank you, man. Hope things are good in London. It's year round. Oh, so the veterans and active military discount is year round. Good. So if you've got that going for you, then definitely. And I'll say this too, because I know, like, we're with Verizon. My brother-in-law is retired military, and you can get a decent discount on your mobile bill if you yourself or a family member are active or former military as well. So that's something to keep in mind. Should be 20%. I don't disagree, man. I mean, lots of people can talk about this, that, or the other thing, but the people who are the veterans are the ones who go out there and do. So they deserve all the appreciation that they can get. No doubt. Well, it's been an hour and 50 minutes. I'm going to cut it off here. I'm going to be done and go play with my new toys. I got some new toys today, audio toys. So appreciate you guys being here. Again, thank you to everybody who's been hanging out. I really do enjoy these live streams. Like, I could probably go all day, but but that would be unhealthy for me. But yeah, if you have any streaming needs whatsoever, if you know anybody who has streaming needs or interests, do go and check out Restream. Restream is the streaming platform that sponsors Painfully Honest Tech channel right now. And so it's restream.io/join/PHT. It's a really good platform. You can actually stream through OBS, Streamlabs, other softwares like that to Restream and then out to 30 plus different platforms. It's a great service. And they do have a free, then they have paid. Go check out the free. Sign up, tell them I sent you. Once again, folks, it's been super fun and glad to see a bunch of new names in here today. Talk to a bunch of new people. Once again, my name is Jason. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Happy new Mac ordering things day. And I will talk